I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Creek Devil. Tom, I'm going to have you introduce this, and don't forget what we need to add into the beginning of this.
Absolutely. We have a very special guest with us today. We've got Gary from Australia, and Gary was part of a crew that was, he's part of the Australian Yowie Research, and they actually, one of their guys, a gentleman named Buck, I think somebody just, and Gary's going to correct me if I got the story wrong, but he just had the FLIR camera, picked it up, scanned around. Of course, you know, they knew there's nothing out there. There's no indication, and bam, there it was. They caught two of them on film. So I'm going to bring Gary on in just a second. And for all you folks out there that would like to support the project and support our channel, you can do that if you want to do so. Just go to Patreon/Creek Devil, and it will do the rest for you. All right, Gary, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right. So did I get that part right? Kind of how it turned out with Buck? Just somebody handed him the FLIR, or he picked it up? And
very close, mate. So
tell us what happened.
Yeah, for sure. So how that actually happened. So we decided on this particular area a couple of months before Buck actually got those thermals. So it involved another expedition where we were on a local dam on the kayaks doing a night expedition, having a look around, which that particular night we actually did get eye shine. We found footprints. Buck Buckingham and Tony actually saw a being move off through the bush. And anyway, at the end of that night, we were coming back up the hill to load the kayaks and that back into my van. And as we were taking the equipment up the hill, to the van, Dean actually got growled at. When I went up there, I heard something move, but Dean Harrison actually got growled at when he was taking his kayak up. So that sparked an investigation on that particular ridgeline. And from there, I ended up getting thermals about roughly 2-3 weeks later. Not quite as good as Buck's. However, it was the same ridgeline. So myself and Dean actually went back a little later on during the day with Jake and fellows. And we actually tracked this ridgeline, followed it all the way up to the top as far as we could go. Along the way, finding tracks, footprints. We even found knuckle prints as well. Just those typical characteristics that you do find in this situation. And then once we got to the top of this ridgeline, we did find a rarely used bushwalking trail. And that then kicked off the idea to actually start doing our night expeditions in this particular area. So what actually happened was that particular night, Buck had never actually used one of these thermals before. So because I had a little bit more experience with this thermal, with the operation of the buttons, that kind of thing, and where they're placed and what each button does, because some buttons have a multi-function, I gave Buck a quick 5-minute rundown on the basics, so enough that he was able to use the camera with semi-confidence. So myself, Shane Guthrie and Dean were actually sitting back at base camp, and Buck walked off by himself just to play with the camera and see what he can work out and have a look around. And after roughly an hour to an hour and a half, all of a sudden Buck comes over the radio saying, "I think I've got something." So myself and Dean we actually grabbed our thermal cameras, had a look around. We couldn't see much. Buck did have a heat signature on camera that it didn't specify too much. It didn't have any defining characteristics that would point out as there's a large object there. It was just a distant heat signature that he couldn't work out. Anyway, he put the camera down, stood in the darkness for a while, and then every now and again he'd pick it up, scan around. And lo and behold, roughly half hour, 40 minutes after that, he come to the radio saying, "I've definitely got something," and it was as you say. He picked it up within seconds and panned around, and caught these two beings roughly 20 to 30 meters off the trail that we're on, standing in the bush back there.
Yeah, and as I recall, you guys later went back and just kind of did an analysis and estimated that these things were roughly about 9 feet tall. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I'll say somewhere between the 8 and 9 foot tall, correct. That was also corresponding with some 17-inch track impressions that we found back there as well.
Yeah, and you know what really caught my attention, what I really appreciated about it, I guess you could say, is the fact that there was no indication they were there. And this was my experience a year ago, almost to the day, a year ago, about, mid last August. I was out in an area and I just knew it was a complete bust. There's nothing there. And it turned out to be quite, there were actually quite a few of them there.
Right.
And Will, that actually kind of corresponds with your sightings. There's nothing there, and then bam, there they are, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, not something I expected.
They certainly don't. They don't like it's as you said, like when these beings came into the area, we heard nothing. There was 2 of them, and you think massive that size times 2, you would hear something coming in. Buck heard nothing, we heard nothing, and when they left, again, same thing. They just vanished. There was no noise. There was nothing, and it's a very confusing situation. Like even with the thermals that I got a few months before that, on the same ridge line just down lower. When they arrived, it was like a bulldozer coming through the bush. You could not mistake it, and they pushed their way through the bush. And I got the camera, pulled the camera up, and look who's there. Two beings that come down from the top of the ridgeline. I watched these beings move around. You could hear them. And when that encounter finished, which was roughly about 15 minutes, when a car drove past and sort of, I guess, piqued their curiosity to look down where the car was going past, which is down where we were standing. They then noticed that myself and Jacob were standing down there watching them. And the same situation, when it was all over and done with, they were that quiet. They moved off with no sound. Again, when they come down, it was like a bulldozer. When they left, literally nothing. And again, the same situation with Buck's thermals as well. They arrived silently. They left silently.
Yeah, it really does seem like if they want to be stealthy, they know how to do that.
Correct.
They're very adept at it.
Correct.
Let me ask you this, and looking at the video, I think you may have been one of the gentlemen that was, you guys were on an expedition, and I think I got the name right. I think it was called the Strickland Trail.
Stickland, S-T-I-C-K.
Stickland Trail. Okay, well, that
Yes.
seems sort of apropos, because you guys are walking along this trail and you would find branches that were, and this is an area that, if I remember correctly, nobody goes there. It's not really a well traveled area, but you'd find these branches that could not have possibly have fallen from the tree and then impaled themselves in the ground. They're vertical. They're stuck in the ground. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, mate, for sure. So the name Stickland actually was coined by Dean himself. The trail isn't actually called Stickland. That's just what we call it because of the sticks and the branches that we did find in the ground. So first and foremost, a percentage of this will happen naturally. We obviously can't dispute that. Mother Nature does do some tricky things. However, some of these sticks and the size can be a very thin twig, or it can be quite a thick stick, an inch to an inch and a half in diameter. And these sticks or twigs can be stuck an inch in the ground. They can be stuck 6 inches in the ground. Now it sounds a bit mysterious and confusing, but when you come across these kind of sticks, where they correlate to certain trails, through certain animal trails through the bush. They correlate with creeks and that kind of thing. Or you'll come across 5 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all spaced out roughly a metre apart. And this is in an area where we actually do find symbols on the ground made out of broken sticks and twigs and that kind of thing. Like we're up there the other day in the same area, just having a look around, and we found a triangle on the ground, which is something we actually do find quite a bit. But the intriguing thing about this triangle was the way that the sticks were placed. There's no way it could have happened naturally. So one stick was under, and when it went to the next point of the triangle, it was over. So it was under, over, under, over, under, over. So there's no way that triangle could land like that. I mean, if there is a possibility that could happen, it might be like a 1-2% chance that Mother Nature's done that. But when you correlate the amount of sticks that we find on the ground with these symbols on the ground, it doesn't leave much room for anything else.
Yeah, I looked at the sticks, and I've been out in the woods a lot, most of my life. I have never seen a stick, especially the little twigs that are impaled vertically in the ground. They can't really fall from a tree. If they fall from a tree, they're just going to those little twigs are just going to be almost like a leaf. So there's exactly just no way.
Exactly. And also, on saying that, like not some, but probably a larger majority of the sticks that we find, there is no tree canopy above where these sticks have supposedly landed. Because obviously, gravity, etc. It's going to fall from somewhere. And a lot of the time we actually do find that, again, we do find these sticks with no tree canopy above, like in a very open, clear space. We've even found them around a particular dam that we've been to, where they are known to hang out. And we found these same sticks jammed on the bank of the dam as well. Again, with no tree canopy above.
Oh, I didn't know that, without a tree canopy. Okay, that makes it a little more challenging for Mother Nature to put a stick in the ground.
Exactly.
And there's nothing above. I say that tongue in cheek. It's just no way.
For sure, mate. For sure. And look, there are other locations that we do find these sticks and these twigs. And the strange thing is, well, I should say the lucky thing is that since we've come out and spoken about the sticks in the ground, obviously there's a percentage of people that will not go past Mother Nature. But since we come out with our evidence of these sticks stuck on the ground, we've had a lot of people contact us at Australian Yowie Research from different parts of the country, so that they've found very similar things where the points start to add up, where they think they've heard something, they thought they heard something walking through the bush, they've seen a stone get thrown or something like that. And then they found these sticks in the ground. It wasn't until we actually come out and spoke about these sticks that then these people contacted us in different parts of the country and said, yes, we actually do find these sticks as well. So, I mean, what do they mean? We don't know. We are trying to work that out. But yeah, we continue to find these sticks. Unfortunately, in the area that we got these thermals at night, the local rangers have decided to do a bit of land clearing. Which to me is a little bit coincidental that Buck gets these thermals and also the rangers decide to start doing some land clearing in that area. To me, that doesn't really add up. It's a little bit too coincidental. However,
what kind of land clearing do they do? They go into their bulldozer, or what? How do they? Again, going back to this particular trail, like you said, it isn't a highly used trail. There are parts of it where bushwalkers do use, but where we are, it's very, very rarely used or even seen. I think the amount of times we've been up there, I think we've seen 2 people, and we've been up there a hell of a lot. But yeah, so the rangers are using a tractor with a large mowing device on the back of it. So basically, all the grass that's gotten from so half a metre to a metre high, all the weeds and that kind of stuff, they've now gone through and cleared the whole area. And again, coincidentally, they only decided to do that since
footage of the thermals came out.
It's interesting. I wonder what the reason is. So have you guys seen any in these areas where the sticks are and that sort of thing? Do you have any other evidence, like something like either knuckle prints or footprints?
Yeah, for sure. So again, like back where Buck got the thermals, when we did investigating behind there, we did find 17-inch tracks. When we tracked up this ridge line, we did find foot impressions most of the way up to the top of the ridge line. We found knuckle prints up there. Down in the creek, directly below this ridge line, we found scat. So that scat has actually gone off to get tested. We found big X markers, tree breaks, all the usual tree indications that you guys have over there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I just did some real quick calculations. So if you got a 17-inch track, we multiplied that by 6.6 divided by 12, and you come up with just not quite 9.4 feet tall. So that's big, very big.
For sure. I mean, what people don't realise as well is that the night that we got those thermals, even though they disappeared in front of Buck's eyes, they actually did not leave us the whole night. They actually did hang around. Like we went to bed at roughly about 3 a.m. Dean and Shannon had jumped into the hammocks roughly about 2 o'clock, and myself and Buck were still sitting up at about 2:30, just discussing and talking, that kind of thing. And you could hear them walking around camp, far enough out of sight that you couldn't see anything or make anything out, but you could hear the bipedal walking around camp. And it wasn't until myself and Buck actually did go to bed as well that I think they got a little bit closer. They start snapping branches, that kind of thing as well. So you just start to fall asleep, and then bang, a big shotgun sound to go off with a branch getting snapped. But I mean, like it is an area that over the years we have had many people come to us with their encounters and sightings. It is probably the number one hotspot in Australia, to be honest with you.
This is in Queensland?
Correct, yes, on the east coast.
You know, it cracked me up. I'd forgot about the hammocks. I'm like, hey, you've got to be kidding. I mean, hammocks, really? I'm not even doing a tent.
Well, I mean, I did suggest to Dean that we should take swags out, but he was stressed about getting trampled inside a swag because you can't see what's going on. So, but even though we are in hammocks, we are still sleeping with a thermal camera in our hands. But I mean, on saying that, I mean, like even like the night that the thermals happened, and we had so much activity that night. Once we went to bed, surprisingly, we all still went to sleep very comfortably. There was no stress, there was no nervousness. We all just cool. That was great. Right, I'm going to bed. Good night, and off we went. And again, it was only when we woke up to again the term shotguns going off in the night from the left, the right, north, south, east, west around us. Which on saying that again, because they did hang around for the most of the night, and as you would have seen on that video footage, the next morning when they left those stick symbols in the ground with the X, the vertical stick, the back was number 4, and that would have been placed somewhere. I'm going to say somewhere between 4:30 and 5:30 that morning. We don't know what they mean. We are trying to work it out, trying to use ancient Sumerian or the ancient rune stones, that kind of thing, trying to correlate symbols and that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think there was some kind of communication there that night. Unfortunately, we don't speak Yowie. Hopefully they can come out of the bush and teach us someday soon.
I think what they were actually saying is, okay, there's 4 of these guys there. It's going to be kind of like sushi, and
possibly, mate. I mean, like we do walk around in the bush with no light on. It is literally like we all have the thermal camera, and we just walk through the bush in the dark with no lights. I mean, the only light that we do use is red light because it doesn't carry through the bush, and it's not an intrusive light. So the only time we use white light is around base camp. As soon as we leave base camp, white light is not allowed to be used, and that basically is to make them these beings feel more comfortable to, I guess, come into us. And on the off chance, because we are in the pitch black ourselves, we might catch one of them unawares.
It's funny you mentioned that. Will's talked about that. Will, it wasn't so much with these creatures, but just, kind of in general. We talked about it on the last episode. You're driving along, you turn the lights off.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't tried that. To be honest with you, I think we got a little bit too the wildlife with kangaroos and stuff like that. I think we'd end up collecting a few kangaroos and wallabies if we tried that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. But there's I think there's this kind of a concept there that you turn the lights off, and that they feel more comfortable. All the creatures do.
Correct. It's it's funny you say that. Even I'm more comfortable with the lights off. I think because I've gotten so used to not having lights in the bush. We went up to the Sunshine Coast, which is about 2 to 2.5 hours north of where we currently are here in the Gold Coast, to meet up with some fellow researchers up there, and their methods still involve using white light. And myself and Dean were sitting in the bush, spaced roughly about 100 feet apart. And next, these bright white lights get turned on, and it was the fellow researchers were having a look through the bush and checking some things out with their torches. And Dean and I felt like vampires in the darkness. Look, because we're so used to not using white light, just walk around in the dark or with red light. It was a very intrusive feeling to all of a sudden have this white light come beaming through the bush at you. And again, look, we were texting each other silently, talking about it, saying we actually do feel like vampires in the bush. But yeah, it's like, again, like it's something that even I feel personally a lot more comfortable with no lights in the bush now, just because that's what I'm used to now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and the other thing is, even with the red light, that preserves your night vision. And I guess I hadn't thought about it from your perspective that once you're acclimated to no lights in the bush, the white light is probably going to be very intrusive, which would also, be for headlights.
Correct. It's even when someone's at base camp using the white light, and you are, say, 100 meters into the bush or down the trail, just comfortably sitting there against a tree, minding your own business, not using any lights, just panning around with the thermal camera every now and again. And someone at base camp, for whatever reason, they're at base camp, it's all good. That's why everything's at base camp, because we want to attract something to our base camp. And when someone turns a white light on, and you can see base camp from where you're positioned, it stands out like a major city on Google Maps at night. You cannot miss base camp as soon as those white lights start flashing around. So, yeah. In turn, on saying that, then if these beings are out there somewhere, they know exactly where base camp is, and they know exactly where the human beings are.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. And, I think they have a greater visual range. They can see into the infrared, which is, and a lot of people don't realize it. We can too, to a very, very limited extent. You can see,
yes.
If somebody has this infrared light, you can just barely see that red. But yeah. I think, everything from raccoons to, I don't know if you have raccoons out there, but I'm sure a lot of the wildlife that you have can see the infrared just fine. And we know these creatures can. So I would imagine that a white light would be just absolutely would stick out like a sore thumb.
Correct. I mean, we actually give people very similar advice to what you guys give people over there when they have these beings coming up to their property. If you feel threatened or it's a negative situation that you don't want these beings coming up to your property, up to your house, like you guys, we tell people as well to put up infrared cameras, to put up sensor lights, so it lights up the area. Or again with the infrared, as you said, they can see the infrared, which has been proven time and time again. I know that there are a lot of people that can't wrap their heads around that, but I think the evidence speaks for itself here and over there where you guys are, that these beings can see infrared. So again, we actually do tell a lot of people that if you don't want these beings around your house, put up game cams, put up sensor lights, and you'll have no issues. And once they've done that, again, like you guys, it's proven time and time again, these beings will stay away. Or when people do find a trackway where these beings are coming up to their house, they'll put game cams on this known trail. All of a sudden it goes quiet for a week or two. And they go back out to check their game cams, and they can see that the trail that these beings have created is starting to grow over. There's leaf litter over it and that kind of thing. And then they go over to a certain, say, 10, 20 metres to the left or the right, and there's a new trail that's been made. So they are actively avoiding these cameras and these types of lights.
Do you guys get people that contact you for help with dealing with the creatures?
We do, mate. We do. So people contact us through the website via email, or they contact us through the Facebook page as well. On a numbers reference, be it people just contacting us for help, or contacting us just to let us know what happened or what they experienced or what they saw. Through Facebook Messenger, we'll get, say, between 5 and 10 messages a week through Facebook Messenger. Emails, we'll get up to 3 or 4 a day from people. Again, be it just with an encounter, or can you please help, or can you do you have any advice of what I can do to keep these beings away from my property, because I fear for my family or my kids.
What is the culture like in Australia as far as the general public acceptance of Yowies?
That's where we are a little bit jealous of you guys. It's getting better. Unfortunately, we don't have pubs and bars and corner stores like yourselves that are named after Sasquatch and Boogerman and Cornman and that kind of stuff. We do have some specific places that are named after, but more in a joking manner. But I mean, the word is starting to get out there. More people are starting to feel a lot more comfortable to come forward with their experiences. It is still more of a joke topic. A lot less people take it seriously. Again, it is getting better. I think since we had a footprint that was found by some friends of mine out west of the Gold Coast, where you may have seen it. It was a women's running shoe that they placed inside this. It looks like a right foot. So they placed that in there. They sent it to me. I involved Dean, and that made the front page of the local newspaper here. And since that happened, it seemed to, I guess, help people, because it's on the front page of the Gold Coast Bulletin. And we also we did have a very large influx of people not only talking about it or discussing it, or a friend of a friend of a friend of mine saw something, but people actually contacting us. Like it did spike quite high, with people feeling a lot more comfortable to come forward with whatever experience they've encountered or seen or found as such. Again, it's not as comfortable as what you guys have over there. It is more of a joke topic. I do know that you guys have, people in the science background who are a lot more open to the subject. Unfortunately, over here, people with those sort of credentials will not speak out loud or out publicly, because they will still be ridiculed very quickly over it.
Yeah, we get some of that. We get quite a bit of that over here as well. But yeah, you're right. I live in Oregon. Will lives in California, and he's from Washington State. I hadn't thought about that till you mentioned it, but it's here in Oregon. Just everywhere you go, you'll see. Will, you've seen them, those 8-9 foot carved statues, where somebody's carved Bigfoot with a chainsaw.
There's quite a few places going up the west coast here.
Yeah, and so I'm going to, when we get off the show, Gary, I'm going to send you a picture of some of those. It's a real popular thing. You can get them like here in town.
Right.
So, but yeah, so it sounds like it's kind of I would say maybe a slow acceptance. And here's why. And it's just my, if I can speculate for a bit, the reason it's being accepted, slowly is because the creatures do exist. So eventually truth has a way of kind of rising to the top and you can't ignore it. So how long, just out of curiosity, how long have you guys been doing the Australian Yowie research, and how long have you had an interest in the topic?
Right, so Dean has been involved with this subject for, I think it's roughly 30 years. I'm pretty sure he had his first experience, I think he was 26 or 27 years old. So that'd make, probably 25 years ago that he started Australian Yowie research, I think it was. So yeah, he has a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and a lot of field experience, that kind of thing as well. So over here, he is the man to look up to, and ask the tough questions. Where if I don't know something, I'll go straight to Dean and ask him, because 9 times out of 10, he has the knowledge and experience to give those answers. For myself, I've been interested in the subject for, I would say, roughly about 7 to 8 years. I've always been interested in these off-topic situations, be it Yowies or ETs or ghosts and that kind of stuff. I've always had an interest in that sort of life. But yeah, roughly about 7 years ago, I decided to actually actively, with a good friend of mine, actually go out and look for these beings. So we actually did go to an area that is known for its sightings and encounters. An elderly lady in this rural area, a small town called Woodinbong. She actually watched one of these beings pick up her small little, I think it was a Maltese, little white fluffy rat dog. She actually watched this being pick it up, and it walked off the property with her dog. So that area does have a lot of encounters and sightings. So myself and Wade decided to go out to this area, and first night we had a bipedal walking through the bush, and we moved down the road a little bit further. And as soon as we got out of the car, which this is a situation where I learned very quickly never to turn off the audio recording device. I thought because we're getting back in the car, I'll pause it, and when we get back out, I'll unpause the recording, which now I've learned to just let it go the whole time. As soon as we got out, we got screamed at from roughly 10 metres away. There's a big wall of lantana, which is it's like it's a bush that is very spiky and prickly. It doesn't really have any irritants, as in like it won't give you a rash. It'll just grab your clothes and grab your skin and give you some nice cuts and abrasions. So this being was behind that wall of lantana, at roughly about 10 metres away. We got screamed at, and then from the north and the northwest, we could hear another two coming in, vocalising as they got closer and closer. And yeah, ever since that night, I haven't stopped. Myself and Wade kept going out as complete useless rookies that had no idea what was going on, with white light, flashing white light through the bush. We would hear something move, we'd flash white light at it. And I luckily got the chance to go out with Dean one night. I kept pestering him, sending him messages, and asking if you need a hand with anything, give me a yell. I'm happy to help. And one night he got sick of me complaining to him and nagging him and pulling on the back of his shorts about it, and he let me come out one night. And that was an area that we actually did get activity, where I was sitting up at a bit of a ridge line. Dean could see me, and he was walking through a creek down below, and he looked up from the creek through the trees and saw me sitting up on top of this ridge. Yep, there's Gary. Okay, cool. He kept walking through the creek, and he looked up again and saw what he thought was myself a little bit higher up on the ridge, walking down to my location. So he thought that I've gone for a walk. He's walked back out of the creek from down below, looked up the trail. I'm still sitting up on this ridge, and he came running towards me. What's he up to? And he ran straight past me. So it turns out that he actually watched a being walking down to my location to check me out. The grass was roughly a metre tall grass, so he was actually skulking down through this grass at roughly at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so still plenty of daylight. And yeah, he ran up there. It obviously saw him coming, so it took off. And since that night, I've been hooked. I've been with Dean on many expeditions since. We try to get out very regularly. We're actually going out tomorrow night for another night expedition in the same area that we've got the thermals, but down lower in a creek section where we did find the scat and X markers, that kind of thing. We have heard some strange vocalizations in there as well, like an old man grumbling. And yeah, since then it's taken off. I won't lie, it's taken over a large percentage of my life, which I'm happy with. I think my wife gets a bit upset sometimes because I'm always disappearing into the bush, but too bad. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster of ups and downs and excitement and disappointment and confusion and back to excitement, and yeah, so it's been a great roller coaster ride, and I have no plans of getting off the roller coaster.
No, I understand that entirely, and you guys are people after our own hearts. We totally get it. If I was there in Australia, I'd be right there with you. Although I would not, you're not going to find me in a hand. But
you say that now, mate. You've got no choice. You can.
So I got to ask you, here in North America, we have not just the sightings and that sort of thing, and the footprints and all the other evidence for the creatures, but the Native Americans here have history that goes back, and they say these things were here when they got here. So there's we have lore, we got legend, we have artwork, and I'm curious if you have Aboriginal lore and artwork that the Aboriginal people have talked about these things.
We do.
And kind of in their culture and something that goes way back in history.
We do. So it is very, very, very similar to the Native American tribes. Even on saying that, with different Native American tribes that get spoken to about this topic, where some tribes will say they're a peaceful race, they're our brothers, we trade with them, we're friends with them. And then you have another tribe that says stay away, they take our women and children. We actually do fight with these beings. So it is a very, very similar subject down here. I personally haven't seen too much artwork, but there's been plenty written about them. And just like over there, the Aboriginals here do have their own specific names for these beings, depending on which part of the country. Be it the Dooligal, the tall ones, your 6 to 10 foot tall beings, or the Junjidi, or the brown jacks that you call them, which are the 3 to 4 foot tall cheeky ones that run around in groups and annoy people. But generally, most Aboriginal tribes will have stories. They will tell you where to go. They will tell you that these beings are friendly. And then on the flip side, you will find a lot of Aboriginal cultures and tribes that will tell you, yes, they are in this particular ridge line or this valley, but don't go in there. They don't like humans. Stay out. So it is what we have here does very much mirror what you guys have over there. Be it the size, be it the activity, be it what these beings do, peeking in windows, knocking on houses, coming up to camps, throwing stones, throwing sticks. it very much does mirror the Aboriginal to the Native American cultures.
Yeah, and that's exactly part of the reason we reached out to you guys, is just that I think it's important for people to realize it's the same creature. What you have over there is what we have over here. The behavior is, and it's fascinating. The behavior is identical. Will, you and I talked about this, and it's kind of like, the behavior is going to be the same with, I don't think you have, I think you have very unique wildlife there, but if we were to compare the behavior of elk or deer or bears or mountain lions here in North America to maybe Europe and Eastern Europe, it's going to be relatively the same. And the same thing with these creatures. They're probably not an animal per se. They're more of a hominid, but it's interesting how the behavior that you guys have there really mirrors what we have going on here. And it predates the arrival of the Europeans, both in Australia and here in America.
Correct. There's even sightings from when white men first came to Australia with Captain Cook and that kind of thing. There are not so much documented reports, but more spoken reports of even these first adventurers that did have sightings themselves once coming to Australia. A lot of them were written off to just hairy Aboriginals, but when you actually go into more of the descriptive part of it, they certainly were not hairy Aboriginals. They were definitely these beings that they were witnessing.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the same thing over here. They're called, they have a lot of different names. The grassman, wood boogers. And it wasn't until, 1958 when the term Bigfoot, was coined. And then, of course, the Pacific Northwest coastal tribes called them Sasquatch. It's actually a little bit different pronunciation, but same idea.
Correct. Yeah, wasn't it with the white men at the time couldn't quite pronounce how that native tribe would call these beings, so that you could change to Sasquatch. It was like
yeah, nothing's changed there. Being able to pronounce those names is still a challenge. Okay. But yeah, you're exactly right. And just something
Sasquatchy. I can't even think what it was, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
You might find this interesting. Here in Oregon, I looked into the history of these things, and I found that in one area of Oregon, going way, way back, 150 years, they were actually called kangaroos. They looked nothing like kangaroos, but I'm assuming it had to do with the way they walked. And with the way, the pioneers or the settlers saw them walking, and for whatever reason.
Make sense. That still doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Well, if we're going to go down that route, then yes, we still ride kangaroos to school.
There you go. Right. Oh, you don't? I thought you guys rode them to school and you put boxing gloves on them.
I should have kept my mouth shut.
But you do put boxing gloves on kangaroos, right?
No, generally it's just bare knuckles, mate.
Okay.
You are right. Yeah, it's this. I think it's as time progresses, as more encounters do happen due to the explosive population of the human race, that's obviously going to cause and effect, have more encounters and sightings to occur. But I think back in these days, 100 years ago, when it was a mythical creature back then that someone would see and you've been drinking too much or you've been smoking too much, you're just seeing things. And as time progressed and more sightings and encounters did start to happen, then people started to put more thought into it. And then these names, cornman, grassman, booger, Doolagar, not Doolagar, but Yowie, even the term Yowie, like same as what you said about Bigfoot being a collective term, that's the same as Yowie. Yowie is a collective term to just incorporate all the names in one so people know what's going on. But yeah, I think as time went on and more sightings and encounters did happen, people actually began to talk about it, and they stopped thinking it was kangaroos and actually gave it a proper description. And next you know, Patterson Gimlin footage came out.
Well, let's face it. Now, in Australia, you've got a lot of things there that nobody else has. You got kangaroos, you got koalas, wallabies, and you've got the duck-billed platypus, which for the longest time was considered not a real creature, right? It was considered a hoax.
Well, I guess you could say Australia is the island of Dr. Moreau in a way. So yeah, we do have some very strange creatures over here. But I mean, saying that, we do have a lot of introduced species as well. Like even going back to deer and that kind of thing, there is a healthy deer population in Australia, not to the numbers of what you guys would have, but where I live up in the Gold Coast hinterland, up in the mountains, there is a deer population around here. And even what you're saying about koalas, there is a lot of misrepresentation with koalas and yowies as well, where someone who isn't quite familiar with the mating call of a koala, they will report to us that they have vocalizations of a possible yowie on their property. And once we listen to the footage, we can quite easily determine, that actually is a koala doing a mating call, which I'm not sure if you've heard a koala doing a mating call. It is.
I have not.
You should probably Google that. It's I'll jump on YouTube and have a look at that. It'll for an animal of that size, the noise and the power that comes out of that little bugger, you'd be very surprised. It's a very deep guttural grunt. Then gets very loud, just like what Bigfoot and yowies would do. But once you hear it, it's a very, very distinctive call. So once people send that to us, we can quite quickly say, yeah, unfortunately, that is just a koala.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's interesting. What are some of the colors of the creature that are reported that people have seen? We get predominantly black now this is just a generalization, but the black hair would be more for the younger juveniles, although sometimes the bigger ones have it. And then generally speaking, as they get larger, they get kind of a auburn or a rust color. And then some of them are even white or gray.
Again, going back to correlating between you and us and you, etc. It's exactly the same. We have reports come in of the blacks, the chocolates, the auburns, the greys, the whites. We had at the end of 2018 on the backside of my mountain, the truck driver, roughly about 10 o'clock in the morning. We call him Big Red, so we believe Big Red, which obviously is like an auburn colour, is the alpha male of the troop that we have in Springbrook, where we've got the thermals. So he's an auburn red, and then we had another contactee a little bit further west who they had been tapping on the windows, and they went out one morning at 4:30 in the morning to have a coffee while her husband went to work, and they saw this being run off across the back of the property into the nearby bush, and she described it as a white to grey colour. We do try to get as much information and description as we can from these people to try and correlate if the grey or white beings are an older creature. However, we do get some people that say, no, this being, it was white, but it did look very young in the face. But again, like, we obviously don't know their aging, so they might age a little bit slower than us. So, I was white, it might have still been 60 years old. But yeah, like it's the colour side of it is very, very much the same as what you guys have over there.
What about the? Can you talk a little bit about the ones in Western Australia that are not? They're not a yowie. They're something a little bit different. They're the ones that are about a metre tall.
Yeah, we actually have those down in New South Wales, so they're not just in Australia. They're not just in Western Australia. They are here on the East Coast as well. And from what the Aboriginal reports are, is that so they are the Junjidi, which is the Aboriginal name, or I guess the common man's name is the brown jacks. So they are roughly about 3 to 4 foot tall, very mischievous. They do get around in groups, whereas as opposed to the general the Doolagals or the Quincan, being the taller, bigger beings who generally get around in 1, 2, and 3. These little guys will get around in, I guess you can say, small little packs. And we have had reports where these little packs will come in and steal from campsites and throw things. And people report, like, if they're throwing stones and that kind of sticks, whatever, people report that the stones and sticks come from all different directions from the camp. It doesn't seem to be any more aggressive than that. It's like more that they're just playing. Which again comes back to our conception of the situation with the small beings or the larger ones, where these beings are playing, but because it's sticks and stones getting thrown, we being humans take it as a negative manner, as opposed to not understanding where these beings are coming from. But yeah, again, like it comes back to the Aboriginals, that they do have many accounts of these brown jacks coming in. Like they're described very much like the Yowies, the Doolgal and the Quincan. Exactly the same for the most part, just only 3 to 4 foot tall, and again traveling, I guess, small packs.
Do you think it's possible that maybe these brown jacks, as you call them, is there a possibility that they might actually be juvenile or very, very young Yowies? They just haven't grown up yet and they're acting like kids? Or do you think they look entirely different and they would just be a different creature?
Well, according to the Aboriginals, they are an entirely different species. Well, I guess I shouldn't say entirely, but they are a different species compared to the larger beings. So some Aboriginals do have reports where they will note the same brown jack, so different facial features or different, slightly different shades of hair, blacks to chocolates, that kind of thing. They do note that these beings have been around their property for many years. So, I mean, I'm saying that, going with witness reports and what the Aboriginals say themselves, we very much do believe they are a separate species to the larger beings.
You there, Tom? Uh-oh.
Lost him.
I think we may have. Let me see.
Yes.
Oh, there he is.
I was talking about, in Indonesia, you've got the big ones. Remember, we were interviewing a gentleman about a year ago, and they had the two distinct varieties of two totally different creatures.
Oh, that was Dolly.
Big ones,
just a couple of months ago, actually.
Is that the orang pendek?
That's one of them, but he had a name for the larger one.
Oh, there's also that's the smaller one.
Right.
Okay.
So I just can't help but wondering if, that maybe there's a similar situation going on there in Australia. Maybe there's some, they're related, kind of the same creature. The little ones being related to the little ones in Indonesia, etc.
Well, I mentioned, Tom, remember before, my friends at the Klamath Reservation, they called the little ones here the Guganas. So you had the smaller ones and, of course, the larger creatures.
That's right. And so it just makes me wonder a little bit about when we find some of the smaller footprints, what are we finding? Are we finding juvenile Sasquatch or maybe these Guganas? Don't know.
Personally, for myself, I haven't found any groups of small tracks. I think the smallest track I've found would be a 7, 8 inch, but they are usually alongside your 14, 15, 16 inch prints. I personally haven't had any experiences with brown jacks in our area. I think they are mostly further south and toward New South Wales, Victoria. From what the reports that do come into us, it seems that we in Queensland only really have the larger species.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, listen, we're just about out of time. I'm hoping we get a chance to chat with you again in the future, and hopefully we're get a chance to talk to Buck and Dean if they're interested and if they're available. And,
yeah, for sure. I'll pass those on for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to tell you, Gary, it was absolutely interesting talking to you today, and you had a lot of very good information. If this COVID thing lifts, we're going to have to head out there to Australia and visit you guys, but you're not talking me into getting into a hammock.
Yeah, we absolutely have to come and visit.
Well, the only problem is if you decide not to sleep in a hammock, you're either going to stay up for the rest of the night, or it would be, in your terms, it'd be a 4 to 5 mile hike back to the cars.
Okay.
So it's either sleep in a hammock or be uncomfortable.
Okay, good enough. You guys have mosquitoes out there?
Depends on the area. Where we are, where we go, like higher up in the mountains, it usually doesn't get too bad. It's probably more so the leeches and the ticks. Like Dean's a bit of a tick magnet. Every time we go, he'll go out fully covered, long pants, long sleeve shirt. I'll go out in shorts and a singlet, and we come back. I have no ticks. He takes his shirt off. He's got 10 ticks. So
good.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's his cologne that he's wearing, or if he has a very special scent of blood. But yeah, but if not, like you would have seen in the videos, like the leeches, that's probably your main concern as well. Keeping the leeches off you, because they come out in force.
They do. We got them here too.
Oh mate, they're great fun. But
yeah.
Usually the mosquitoes aren't too much of an issue when we are higher up. They usually hang down toward the creeks a bit more.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Gary, I really appreciate it. And again, I got to tell everybody out there, I like the way you sign your emails. You go fast for corners.
Gary, be sure to keep in touch with us.
I will, mate, for sure, definitely.
All right, we got to wrap this segment up, everyone. Gary, again, thank you, man. Everyone, stay tuned for the next segment.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out there.